Liz, there we go.
Okay,
All right.
good afternoon and welcome to today's Learn Life session, Increasing Sustainability and Community Resilience Through Water Reuse. Today's host is Rich Anderson, and he will be making introductions of all the guest speakers that will be involved in today's event. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the event, so please hold your questions until then, and we will go through them systematically and let you guys unmute to get those questions answered for you. CEUs will be awarded. I will mark attendance by the end of today, so you should see something coming from the Learning Center that lets you know that you've completed and your CEUs were awarded. If you have any questions, I will put my email in the chat and you can just send me an email regarding CEUs or attendance for this event. As mentioned a few seconds ago, the panel will host a Q&A session at the end of this in regards to the content. With that, I will hand it over to Rich, and thank you all for joining us.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Liz, and thank you for everybody in attendance. We do have a rather esteemed panel today, which we'll get to in a minute. However, I just wanted to give a quick overview on what we'll be concentrating on today. Today's webinar will be focusing on on-site water reuse and a few highlights on municipal water reuse efforts. We have the Water Reuse Association with us today. We have representatives from the National Blue Ribbon Commission and San Francisco Water, and the EPA as well with their Water Reuse Action Plan, and a manufacturer guest with us today who they design and manufacture on-site water reuse systems, and that individual is also part of our PMG Code Action Committee, the proposals for the 2027 code. With that, little copyright slide here. I am not one who really reads from slides, but our goals for today are going to be just to highlight a lot of water reuse efforts that we're seeing on a municipal side and on what our members at ICC on what's commonly referred to in the water reuse industry as premise plumbing code requirements and those on-site systems that we want to see. So with that, let's get off to introductions. And for introductions, I'm going to stop sharing my screen briefly, allowing the individuals that we are going to be hearing from to introduce themselves and be on your screen. So I'd like to start by introducing Paula Kehoe to everybody. Paula, would you like to do a quick introduction about yourself? Bam.
Sure. Thanks, Rich. My name is Paula Kehoe. I'm the Director of Water Resources at the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, and I'm also the Chair of the National Blue Ribbon Commission for On-Site Non-Potable Water Systems. And thank you for having me today.
Thank you. And our next speaker, we'll go to Sharon and introduce yourself and what you do.
Thanks, Rich. My name is Sharon Appier. I'm the National Program Leader for Water Reuse at the Environmental Protection Agency. We sit in the Office of Water within the Office of Science and Technology. And thanks for having me today.
Great, thank you. And our next speaker up is going to be Pat. Pat, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Rich. My name is Pat Sinacropi. I'm Executive Director of the Water Reuse Association, and also appreciate being here today with you. Thanks, Rich. It's good to see you.
Awesome. Yes, we just saw each other in Denver. Yeah. All right. And our next speaker is going to be Adam. Adam.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. First, I want to thank the team here. This is quite an accomplished crew who dare I say are quite famous in the field. My name is Adam Stern. I'm a professional engineer. I'm with Natural Systems Utilities. We design, build, and operate water reuse systems.
Great. Thanks for being here, Adam.
Thank you.
We really enjoy that. And I'm going to go back to sharing my screen now and get back to our PowerPoint here. So My name is Rich Anderson. I am one of 5 U.S. directors of PMG Technical Resources with the International Code Council. Our job in a nutshell is to be a liaison to our members for everything PMG related. And for us, that is our plumbing codes, mechanical, fuel gas, swimming pool and spa, our private sewage disposal code, and where those codes and regulations overlap with the rest of our families of solutions. And as you can imagine, even if we're just talking about energy conservation, what overlap there is for plumbing and mechanical and all of the PMG stuff in our IECC. As mentioned, there's 5 US directors. Everybody on this call should have somebody in their region that they can contact. If not, you can contact me directly and I'd be happy to get you in touch with your regional PMG director. So in the Northeast, we have Gary. And then in kind of that central eastern up to central US, we have Lisa. And in the South here, we have Jim Sika. Everything you see in green is my territory. I also have Hawaii, Alaska, and Guam, which is sometimes fun, right? And then we have Mark up in the north central region of the US. So I just wanted to put that out there for everybody. Most recently, ICC has started a PMG newsletter where you can stay up to date on everything PMG related in the family of solutions. This bi-monthly newsletter is something you have to opt into signing up for. I believe we're going to be making this PowerPoint available in a PDF to those in attendance afterwards. So the QR code here can either be scanned on your phones right now to sign up for that newsletter, or when you get the PDF document, there is a link embedded directly into it that you can click on and it'll take you to the registration page. So that's about our 10-minute introduction and overview time. I am going to hand it over to Paula right now with the National Blue Ribbon Commission for her portion. And I know we said there would be a time for Q&A at the end, but we're pretty flexible here. If you have a pertinent question, I'm assuming you can raise your hand or put it in the chat and we will address it, or you can save it to the end. We're kind of open either way. All right, there we go, Paula. It is
All right,
yours.
let me just get it in slideshow mode and let's see. There we go. Hopefully it's working on your end. Yes, great. Okay, well, thank you so much for the invitation to talk about on-site water treatment systems or decentralized water treatment systems in San Francisco, as well as what's happening across the United States. Let's see. I think we all recognize that water is one of the most important natural resource challenges facing the world today. And managing water supplies is not an easy task. I work at a utility. We have many, many challenges, from droughts to flooding, to aging infrastructure, to rapid urban population growth. And speaking of urbanization, it's really a defining feature of the 21st century. According to the UN, by 2050, 2 out of every 3 people are likely to be living in cities or in urban centers. So we certainly see cities growing. San Francisco and San Francisco Bay Area is one of those areas that are growing. And we really need to think about opportunities of how we can use water more efficiently in buildings and in our neighborhoods. And so really that has changed how we view buildings themselves. There's sources of water. They produce many different types of water, including rainwater and stormwater, foundation drainage, which is often nuisance groundwater from dewatering operations. There's also gray water, water from our clothes washers, our bathroom sinks and showers, and then black water. And some buildings produce condensate. And if we collect these water sources and treat them appropriately, we can reuse them for non-potable applications. And that really can be significant when it comes to water use efficiency and water conservation. Certainly when we look at multifamily residential buildings, almost half of the water that's needed in these types of buildings do not require potable drinking water. So we can use non-potable water supplies. And when we look at office buildings or commercial buildings, the potential to really save water can be much higher as well. Up to 95% of the potable water that's needed in these buildings do not require drinking water. We've seen there are on-site water treatment systems that have been installed worldwide. In fact, New York City in the US, I think, has some of the oldest systems that Adam from Natural Systems Utilities certainly can talk about in Battery Park, New York. But again, there's systems again throughout the world from an on-site decentralized water treatment systems that are producing non-potable water for many kinds of end uses, such as toilet flushing, irrigation, cooling, clothes washing. But really, and there's a number of benefits that are associated with on-site decentralized water treatment systems. Certainly, it provides for a climate resilient water source for households, buildings, and neighborhoods. These systems are very flexible and can be installed very quickly, unlike municipal centralized infrastructure, which can take decades to install. They also help to alleviate water scarcity and reduce the burden on centralized infrastructure. We have a lot of benefits, but there's also challenges associated with on-site water treatment systems. And really, from some of the key challenges that have been historically in the US has been a lack of appropriate water quality standards, including a lack of state or national regulations. We also tend to see conflicting plumbing codes and standards, and also a lack of guidance on oversight and management to protect public health, which needs to be certainly the most important part of all of the work that we are doing, is the protection of public health. So San Francisco, what we decided to do was we were set out to change the paradigm. We have centralized infrastructure, recycled water, for example, but we also recognize, again, this opportunity for decentralized on-site water treatment systems. So first, we decided that we needed to walk the walk and install an on-site water treatment system in our own headquarters. So this is a picture of our building in downtown San Francisco. We installed an engineered wetland treatment system to capture all of the black water that we produce in the building. So instead of sending that to our municipal sewer system, we diverted that water, treat it, and reuse it for non-potable applications such as toilet flushing and urinal flushing throughout the building. We also recognized, again, as I mentioned, the protection of public health is so critical when it comes to decentralized on-site water treatment systems that we needed to establish a regulatory program to enable and allow buildings, private and public buildings, to install on-site water treatment system. So our ordinance in San Francisco involves 4 city agencies, the utility. We provide technical assistance as well as managing our cross-connection control program, which is extremely critical when these treatment systems are installed and for ongoing operations. Our Department of Public Health reviews engineering reports, issues permits, and requires ongoing water quality reporting. Our Department of Building Inspection is involved in installing systems and plumbing plan checks, and our Department of Public Works is involved in installing pipes in the street or sidewalk. We've also streamlined this permitting process to enable these decentralized systems to be installed quickly and easily. And so we have developed a number of steps that folks need to walk through in order to, again, obtain a permit for ongoing operations and maintenance. Just to mention, these systems, these decentralized systems, are connected to our centralized infrastructure. So there's the ability to receive potable water, as these systems aren't producing potable water for drinking, etc., as well as connected to our sewer system for discharge, or if the system needs to go down for maintenance. Our ordinance has evolved over time. In 2012, we started this ordinance on a voluntary basis for single buildings. We actually had a number of private developers coming to us at the utility saying they wanted to install an on-site water treatment system to get LEED Platinum or to build green buildings, sustainable buildings. So this is when the ordinance went into place. In 2013, it was amended for district scale, so 2 or more buildings could connect to one treatment system. So it tends to be more cost effective. In 2015, in California, we were in the height of a drought, and it became a mandatory requirement for new buildings over 250,000 square feet. In 2021, we add additional amendments to our ordinance. We lowered the threshold to 100,000 square feet. And we looked at, again, and analyzing the data that in multifamily and mixed use buildings, there was also the opportunity treating gray water to use it for not just toilet flushing and irrigation, but also for clothes washing. And when it came to commercial buildings, we recognized that gray water really is not enough of a supply in commercial buildings. And so our ordinance now requires all commercial buildings to treat black water for toilet flushing. Today, we have 45 permitted on-site water treatment systems, and we have 29 projected for the future. Just to give you a couple of quick examples, this is an apartment building, 550 units, treating gray water for toilet flushing and irrigation, approximately 7,500 gallons per day. Here's a state-of-the-art sports entertainment facility, treating rainwater, stormwater, condensate, and gray water for toilet flushing and urinal flushing, as well as spray irrigation. And this project is estimated approximately 35% reduction in potable water use. This new district scale project, we just recently went to see this system. It's completed and it's constructed. This will serve, the decentralized treatment system will serve 11 buildings, including residential and commercial, treating black water for cooling tower makeup, toilet and urinal flushing, as well as irrigation, and they're expected to meet 100% of their non-potable water demands. Just quickly, we've also thought about other kinds of applications. So there's the opportunity for on-site water recycling at industrial facilities. This is an example producing steam in downtown San Francisco, saving about 30 million gallons of high quality potable drinking water. We've also looked at breweries, and we've developed our own chemical and pathogen control strategy to treat and clean processed water, cleaning water for reuse in breweries. And we also have been thinking about other kinds of resources that we could produce from on-site water treatment systems. And so we conducted a pilot in our own headquarters where we added additional treatment technologies to the engineered wetland treatment system to produce water that's comparable to drinking water. The pilot was a success, and we're currently in process of creating a permanent purified water facility within our own headquarters. We also recognize there's opportunity to produce energy, and so we have a grant program for heat exchangers for decentralized water treatment systems, again, to offset some of the energy that's needed for these treatment systems. And just to touch on what we're doing across North America is we've established the National Blue Ribbon Commission for on-site non-potable water systems. It's a unique partnership. It was established in 2012. It's comprised of public health regulators, water and wastewater utilities, US EPA and the US Army, as well as our partners, Water Reuse Association and Water Research Foundation and US Water Alliance. We've really been focusing again on what we've done in San Francisco, but how we can think about this across the United States. We really are focusing on establish appropriate water quality standards and to promote consistency among states, encourage oversight management programs, again, to ensure we're protecting public health, develop technical and policy documents, and to serve as a forum for peer-to-peer learning. Just some highlights of our work in 2017 was a very fundamental document that we produced in cooperation with the Water Environment Research Foundation that time, which was really to focus on the appropriate water quality standards. What came out of all of that work was really a shift from endpoint monitoring coliform to a risk-based framework. And really what that is focusing on is these establishing treatment systems that will remove bacteria, protozoa, and virus in order to protect public health. Since 2017, there's been more research that's been done in terms of looking at risk-based benchmarks. We have also approach from California. We have an approach from considering looking at a DALI approach, which is utilized more internationally. And EPA is looking at developing a fit for purpose framework, which anticipated to be published later this year. So we have a lot of state of the science, and I think it's important when we think about how we think about what is the log reduction targets or removal for these pathogens of concern, it really comes down to also what's the appropriate treatment train. So currently we have some slight variations in our approach, but what fundamentally it comes down to is very similar treatment trains. And just to give you an example, for a black water treatment, or excuse me, gray water treatment system, NBR with UV and chlorine. And this is similar treatment technology for black water. And a part of the treatment system is also this continuous monitoring that's required, again, to ensure that these individual treatment technologies are functioning correctly. Through our work, also, there's been a number of states and cities that have adopted legislation and have moved forward with developing programs. San Francisco, Colorado, state of California, Hawaii, Washington State, Minnesota, Washington, D.C., Austin, Texas, and Alaska, New Mexico, Oregon, and New York City, as well as Ohio, currently are working on some regulations. So we have a number of technical documents, or these are all publicly available. I have the website link at the end of my presentation. But again, our purpose is to share as much information as we have publicly, and again, to stay abreast of all of the key state of the science. So we've just certainly seen more technology providers in the marketplace. There's been a market transformation that's happened in San Francisco as well as across the US. Some of the treatment providers have indicated return on investment less than 10 years, really looking at skid-mounted treatment systems as well as online monitoring and remote operations. And we're starting to see some projects include resource recovery, heat exchangers, and nutrient recovery, etc. Some additional work underway is addressing the lack of skilled operators. We're developing a national certificate program, and for one of my most important projects is working with folks like ICC is addressing conflicting plumbing codes, and we've been making a lot of progress, and we're very, very excited about all of the work that we've been doing collaboratively. We're hosting a summit in Washington, D.C. In a couple of weeks. I think we're at capacity, but Sharon will let us know. Really bringing together operators, designers, regulators, researchers, and academia. And we are expanding our National Blue Ribbon Commission partnership beyond North America. And we've been talking to a lot of folks all around the world, from South Africa to Europe. So it's exciting. I just wanted to comment on one last piece of work that we're doing specifically in San Francisco, is we're looking at some new technologies in terms of how they could potentially be deployed. Recirculating showers. There is an IATMO standard for recirculating showers. There are some recirculating showers in Europe trying to break into the US market. There's also the potential for recirculating water and clothes washers and single-family gray water systems. We hosted a webinar, really, again, focusing on the state of the science for these single-family water reuse applications. And we're underway with an independent expert advisory panel to assess the feasibility of these kinds of applications for San Francisco. So in conclusion, really, our vision for the future is really that we see and we expect a broad acceptance of on-site water recycling systems as just another appliance in an apartment building, an office, a home. And we expect reduced costs and energy to really enable a market transformation for all communities to participate. Certainly, with improved monitoring, we expect that will lead to more autonomous systems and plug-and-play systems. And of course, not to forget the resource recovery component that can produce other resources such as energy, nutrients, and potentially drinking water. So thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you all, and here's some links, and happy to share this presentation as well. So thank you.
Paula, we have Jim Richardson with his hand up, I think, with a question. Jim, can you unmute?
I just did. Thank you, Rich. With these systems, and they're supposed to be, remote monitored and stuff, but is there any potential that these may have to come into some type of an inspection, like annually or something, from like EPA as a regulatory thing? Is there any expectation of that? And even if so, do we believe that the EPA is going to have enough people to handle these systems coming online with the amounts that we might be looking at? I know, I love the part of the, remote monitoring to make sure these things are working. It's just at some point, is the EPA or some other agency going to be tied into that reporting to make sure that these things are working where they're supposed to be working? If they're not working, that somebody's following up to make sure any repairs have been done the way they're supposed to be done, and will continue to provide the water like they need it.
Yeah, great questions and comments. Certainly couldn't agree with you more. The importance of continuing to make sure that these treatment systems are operating effectively and safely over the implementation phase. So how it's working is that currently these types of decentralized on-site water treatment systems are either being managed at the local level, like for example at San Francisco, or the state level. It depends on the local context. It's not something that involves EPA in terms of doing inspections. So I can give you an example. California is preparing and ready to release some regulations. The state of California will require all local entities to establish a program like San Francisco has established to oversight and management. What we do is we require ongoing reporting of that data. So we get that data on an ongoing basis. Some states, for example, like Washington State, they are currently in the process of finalizing their regulations. They plan to have the state of Washington be the manager and overseer of these treatment systems. So the data will go to the state of Washington. So again, part of how the work is being implemented throughout the U.S. is really ensuring that we allow flexibility from the local context, again, from the state or from the local city or entity. Currently at this point, and Sharon certainly can talk more, but this is not an EPA regulatory program.
Hey, Paula, I just wanted to really call on Adam real quick for part of that question because they maintain some of these systems. So
Yeah, thanks, Rich.
I didn't know if you had anything to add, Adam.
I do. So it does vary state by state. For our systems in Massachusetts, those are regulated by Massachusetts DEP, similar to New Jersey. New York City is a little more local. It's the city DEP. So these systems are operated by state licensed operators. And then there's regular reporting oversight by the regulatory agencies on top of that.
Awesome. Sharon, did you have anything to add to that question?
No, I think Paula nailed it. This is happening at state or local level. EPA is non-regulatory when it comes to water reuse, no federal regulations. So this is all happening at the state level.
Great, thank you. Pat, as one of our panelists too, I wasn't sure if maybe you had something to add that you're seeing legislatively driving maybe maintenance and upkeep for that question.
No, not for the oversight of these systems. We haven't seen much legislation active on Capitol Hill. I think Paula and Adam covered it pretty well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. I don't see any other questions right now, but once again, feel free to put them in the chat if you have them. With that, I'm not even going to bother sharing my screen again. Here is Sharon with the EPA. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. Okay, I'm off mute. You see my full screen.
We have a black screen on my end.
Yeah,
There it is.
Now it is.
We're good?
Yes. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Rich, for having us. Thanks to everyone at the ICC for your partnership. Great presentation. It's good to kind of follow what what Paula talked about. And I apologize, between all of us, this is a deluge of information. So I'm going to provide a high-level update on what's happening on the National Water Reuse Action Plan. We look at all sources and all applications, and I've really tried to tailor a lot of this to on-site, but some of it is for all types of reuse applications. Okay. Let's see, it's not moving. All right. So I run the water use program here at the EPA. We're relatively new. We started just in late 2020. We sit again in the Office of Water. We are really about capacity building. We're trying to make sure that people have the expertise, or we build up the expertise for technical, financial, institutional capacities. So if there's a community that's wanting to pursue reuse, or if they're in need of an alternative water supply, they're going to understand how to do so. So what we do in my program is we're integrating water reuse into our current and existing EPA programs, specifically those in Office of Water. We're coordinating the Federal Interagency Water Working Group for water reuse. And we're also, of course, leading and facilitating the implementation of the Water Reuse Action Plan. So one of the elements I just mentioned, the Federal Interagency Working Group, this has been informally happening since about 2019, but we were formally established in spring 2022 and directed by Congress under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. EPA chairs this interagency working group, and we have 15 different federal agencies that have equities in water reuse that are supporting us. So together, we're developing, coordinating all of our reuse efforts across the federal family. I also want to highlight one focus area for us. Congress in the last year directed us to study the public benefits of a federal or potential federal tax credit to support private investments for reuse. So this could include companies that are looking at on-site water reuse. At EPA, we have several different advisory groups of experts that are external to the agency, and we're really fortunate that our Environmental Financial Advisory Board, EFAB, is going to conduct this study in the coming year. And I want to let you all know we're going to have a public engagement session in the spring, and I think this could be of interest to members of ICC, and we will be announcing this in the Federal Register. And I'm going to provide details to make sure that you know how to sign up for all of our future events at the end of the PowerPoint. All right, so going into the Water Reuse Action Plan, we just celebrated our 4-year anniversary, which is fantastic, that we have continued to keep up the momentum and continue to bring on new partnerships. Really, this has been one of the most important ways that we can advance water reuse at a national level because of all the external engagement and the participation. So I do thank, again, the ICC for helping, and of course, to Paula and Pat for being big leaders in this effort as well. We are now up to 69 different action commitments. We have 157 organizations involved. That's not people, that is organizations that are participating in various actions. And collectively, we've produced 170 plus different resources. And like Paula said, we are trying to make all of our resources, or we do make all of our resources publicly available. 2 weeks ago at the Water Reuse Symposium in Denver, Colorado, we published this 4-year wrap update. This document can be found on our website. And again, I'll show you how to sign up for updates and receive this in your inbox after the presentation. But what it does is really highlight all of the great products from the WRAP Collaborative over the last year, over 2023. All right, so all of our actions are organized in several key impact areas. So the vision is that we're trying to make big impacts in improving state regulatory and policy clarity. Again, we don't have federal regulations. The states are in the driver's seats for moving reuse regulations forward. So this is really trying to help with our codes and our standards and our permits and understanding those. Highlighting infrastructure investments, advancing science and technical research, improving public perception. So after infrastructure investments, public perception can be the second biggest barrier to getting a reuse project off the ground, and providing technical support and information. So I'm going to go through all of these and try to highlight some of the on-site pieces within them. So improving state regulatory policy clarity. If you don't know about this tool, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Reuse Explorer. In 2022, we launched what we call the Reuse Explorer, which is Regulation In-Use and Specification Explorer tool. So the goal is really to support our states in their reg development and also to support our utilities and practitioners in understanding their own state regulations and what's happening across the United States. So what we've done is summarize all existing state water reuse regulations or guidelines. We don't have city guidelines in there because someone was just talking about New York City. We don't have city guidelines. This is at the state level. All of these are searchable by state, source of water, and in-use application, of which there's 9. We have downloadable maps, and we're also offering common vocabulary to describe our sources of water and reuse applications, since different states describe these sources and in-use applications differently in their regulations. We are continuing to work on this product and make it more and more user-friendly. We're adding regulations as we know about them. We've added industrial and rainwater sources over the last year. We conducted a sweep for new state regulations, and so we'll be adding those in the coming year. And we also decided to include several international regulation summaries so we can see what other countries are doing on reuse. So this is one of the 10 different maps that are available to show the regulatory landscape across the United States. So all of these maps are listed by reuse application. They're available for download. And this one's on-site non-potable water regulations or guidelines. So I think it's interesting, unlike some of the other regulations or types of reuse, on-site's not just focused on the West. We're seeing this throughout the United States. And of course, I didn't even, for the person that mentioned Massachusetts, we don't even have that listed. Hopefully it'll get caught in our 2023 sweep to make sure that we can include that one as well. This is really a back and forth also with the states. We make sure that the states review the summaries that we're putting online. If there's inconsistencies or something's incorrect, we're working with our states to make sure that this is up to date. Several states that are currently in the reg development process, like Paula just mentioned, Washington State, that will be added after those regs have become finalized. All right, and of course, want to highlight one action that we've been working on between the Blue Ribbon Commission and all of the codes organizations listed here, like ICC and some of the others. This is about incorporating on-site reuse research into the codes and standards for premise plumbing. So our state and our local premise plumbing codes, they govern the delivery and the quality within the buildings and are typically adopted from the national codes and standards organizations. So from the Reuse Explorer, we have 12 states that have guidelines or regulations for on-site reuse per the Explorer. A handful of those states are pointing to the NSF 350 ANSI standards. We know that states are also looking to the Blue Ribbon Commission and EPA science on how to incorporate the log reduction targets that Paula just mentioned. But what is great about this action is allowing this mechanism to align the multiple plumbing codes and standards with this newer risk-based frameworks, which is the log reduction targets for on-site treatment. Each organization has now also developed their work plans for updating these relevant codes and standards within premise plumbing. Another aspect of this action includes the upcoming water reuse, the on-site water reuse summit that Paula just mentioned. This is going to be in Washington, D.C. at the EPA headquarters just next month, April 10th and 11th. We're co-hosting it with the Blue Ribbon Commission and the Water Reuse Association. It is currently sold out. This started as a small idea. It quickly ballooned to over 200 participants. We are waitlist only. If this is something you're interested in attending, I have my email address at the end, and you can email us to get on the wait list. But what this is really about, there has been so much movement in this area in the on-site field over the last 5-10 years, but this is really the first time we've brought together all of our state regulators, our codes organizations, our risk assessors, technology developers, the local implementers, all together to talk about their experiences and their lessons learned and how we can continue to advance on-site together. There is going to be a panel on April 11th in the morning talking about the aligning of the plumbing codes and the standards, and all of those organizations listed here will be on that panel. And Rich Anderson will be there representing the ICC. Where I'm also just excited to highlight that we're continuing to show federal involvement in all these different pieces, and we'll have folks from GSA, Department of Defense, and Department of Energy as well. Okay, highlighting infrastructure investments. This is where my program works to highlight where is reuse eligible in some of our federal funding programs. This administration, as many of you are aware, has made unprecedented amounts of infrastructure dollars available through the bipartisan infrastructure law, and $1 billion was made available for federal investments in reuse in just 2023. Within the EPA, we have the state revolving funds. This could include on-site, but many of the funding decisions are made by the states, and states can have restrictions on funding in addition to some of the federal requirements. Our WIFIA program, the Water Infrastructure Finance Innovation Act is what it stands for. Reuse projects are eligible, and they're listed under 2 of the administration priorities, which is fantastic. the WIFIA program funds a wide range of public and private entities, so it is possible that an on-site project could be considered in the future. Bureau of Reclamation, they fund much larger projects under their Title 16 program and their new large-scale water recycling program. And we're also seeing now FEMA funding water reuse projects. 200 million of that 1 billion was awarded by FEMA for water reuse projects. They are funding it under their hazard mitigation and BRIC program for drought resilience. And I also want to announce we are going to be having an infrastructure funding webinar with our interagency working group in June, on June 26th. You can sign up here with this code, or again, at the end, I'll show you how to sign up for our newsletters to get this information. But we're going to have 4 different federal agencies discussing 7 different federal funding programs and talk about the eligibilities and how they have funded water reuse projects in the past. Okay, advancing science and technological research. Prior to this water reuse action plan effort in our program, we did not have any specific funding awards for water reuse. And so it's really exciting to see this 121 million number that's been funded for science since 2020. Under the EPA, we have continued every year to fund water reuse under the STAR, the National Priorities Program. They've funded things like understanding more about viruses, which is a key public health risk driver. Our small business awards, they have funded reuse for on-site several times, looking at on-site modular systems, on-site and ag, and even septic systems that could include reuse. The Department of Energy has been funding the National Alliance for Water Innovation for desal and reuse technologies, but they've also had a focus on extreme decentralization and on-site systems, and we're going to be hearing from them about their work at the On-Site Reuse Summit. And then finally, Department of Defense, they've been funding a new reuse consortium, more for potable reuse, but they also have an eye on deployable decentralized systems for the military. So starting to think about how they can include log reduction targets and risk metrics as well. And they will be talking about that at the On-Site Summit. Finally, I'm going to talk about providing technical support and information. States are starting to lean on us for technical support to discuss pilots or reg development, or even if they're just running out of water and not sure what to do. So we're always thinking about what are the best resources that we can make available to our stakeholders. I'm just going to highlight 2 that could be applicable for on-site. The first is a series of case studies that we produced. These are pretty detailed case studies that are discussed in the lens of the different water reuse benefits that you can provide. We talk about the technical, the financial, the institutional, and the policy aspects of these different projects in our case studies, but 3 of these 15 case studies are on-site reuse. And one of the ones that you all might know about is the Domino Factory in New York. The second webpage I want to highlight is our resource hub. All of our relevant WRAP resources are now cataloged by reuse application. So we have 9 different cards here. So if you click on the on-site non-potable card, you're going to see some of the key resources in the field for on-site water reuse. We'll have links to all the reg state summaries that are associated with the Reuse Explorer, and we'll have the case studies that are linked to that particular application. Finally, I wanted to highlight 2 reports that are just hot off the press from other WRAP action leaders that are within the plan. The first was released right before the Water Reuse Symposium. It's on advancing water reuse within the beverage industry. So this is on-site, they call it within the fence. It's not for making beverages, but for other processes within the beverage industry and how they can advance that. That included both EPA and FDA on that document. And then secondly, Pacific Institute just came out with a report on stormwater capture use and potential. So this is the volumetric potential of stormwater. And this is also applicable to on-site at the building or the district scale. So if you want to check those out, those are available on our, links are available on our website, and I'll show you again how to sign up. So everyone take out your phones and click this QR code here. This is where you can sign up for our monthly updates as well as our quarterly updates. We're always trying to make sure that we're amplifying all the different products of our WRAP partners as it relates to advancing various aspects of water reuse. We'll have information on our webinars, funding announcements for research or infrastructure, as well as any new products from our partners. So I'll stop there. You can also email me here if you have additional questions or want to get on the wait list for the on-site summit.
Thank you so much, Sharon. A lot of information, a lot going on at the federal level with the EPA. Lots of efforts to help communities who are seeking on-site water reuse. You had mentioned BRIC funding, and I want to just remind everybody in attendance today that your ICC government relations team last year brought on an individual, Stella, to assist communities in filling out applications for grant funding. It's the way it works. We're government. We understand that if you don't dot every I and cross every T, or you don't use the right font or the right font size, often these applications will get rejected. So Stella, with your government relations department, is your point of contact, allowing you that resource to help you fill out those grant applications. And Sharon, it's been such a pleasure to work with you and the EPA team at ICC level. I'm really looking forward to the April 10th and 11th. I believe those are the 2 dates. They're during our ICC code hearings, but so some of our members may not be in attendance, but we will definitely get any information out for them. I did put a link in the chat for everybody directly to the EPA's RAP website so that they can access that. And with that, I'm not seeing any hands up or questions in the chat. So do any of our panelists have anything to add to what Sharon presented on? Hearing none, we will move forward with a presentation from Pat with the Water Reuse Association. Thank you so much for being here, Pat.
Sure thing. Thanks. And great job, Sharon, and great job, Paula. And I will say that it's a pleasure to work with both the EPA's Program Office on Reuse and Paula's and supporting Paula's National Blue Ribbon Commission. And I'll go into some of those activities in my presentation, but let me start by sharing my screen. Hopefully you will all see this. Is this coming up now? Let's see. Okay.
Yeah, we see it. There it is, Pat. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, I'm going to give a very high level talk on who the Water Reuse Association is, what we do, and touch on some of the advocacy items that we're working on, some having to do with on-site systems and some more generally focused on broader water reuse.
Can I just jump in a second? We're getting an echo off of your audio.
Oh, okay. How about, is that better?
Same.
I don't know why that would happen. I don't have any other applications open.
It could just be the room you're in, Pat. I don't know if you had a headset, maybe there could be just echoing off the walls.
Is that better?
About the same. I just say move on. We're getting a
Yeah.
slight echo. It's okay.
Okay. Let me turn my phone. Is that better?
Like I said, about the same. Just keep going. It's not that bad. It's just a little echo.
Okay, apologies for that. I won't shout. So we are the Water Reuse Association. We're a trade association. Our members are utilities, businesses, and institutions that are involved in the process of adopting and promoting and installing water recycling systems. Nationally, we have about 500 members. We have sections in 11 states and regions across the country. In you can see here on this map in those regions where water recycling is now becoming quite an important aspect of the water management system for those regions. And we primarily focus on advocacy. It's a big focus of ours. In addition to advocacy, we do a lot of education, educating the public and educating our members about water reuse and how water recycling is used by utilities and others. At the national level, we advocate on Capitol Hill and with federal agencies to put in place policies and funding that facilitate the uptake of water recycling. Our states do the same at the state and local level. Just some of the federal policy items that we're particularly focused on right now is, of course, funding. And as was mentioned previously, we worked hard to pass in the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the $1 billion that the Bureau of Reclamation received for investments in water recycling, specifically in the West. We also were very involved in advocating for greater funding for the WIFIA program and the SRF. Much of that funding does support water recycling. We were pleased that the Interagency Working Group on Water Reuse was established through that legislation, and as Sharon mentioned, that working group is now busy working to ensure that the federal family remains coordinated and to the extent that they have relevant programs, remain focused on supporting water recycling. We also authorized a program called the Alternative Water Source Grants Program, authorized in the bill for $25 million. That program has not yet received appropriations, and that's been a focus of much of our work for the last 3 years, trying to get that program funded. For those of you who may be coming into DC for the onsite reuse conference in April and are going up to Capitol Hill or maybe visiting with your congressional delegation, if you want more information about how you can support the effort to get the Alternative Water Source Grant Program funded, please reach out to me and we'll send along some talking points and our handouts on that program. We're also involved right now. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about PFAS and how that will impact water systems, water and wastewater systems. We are working with our partners in that area to ensure that if Congress passes legislation requiring PFAS to be listed as hazardous substance under CERCLA, that water and wastewater utilities receive an exemption under those under CERCLA to ensure that there's no unintended consequences and liability to passive receivers of PFAS. Of course, we have been very involved and remain involved helping the EPA lead the Water Reuse Action Plan effort. As Sharon said, that's now in the 4th year. And we're excited to see the number of organizations engaged in that effort. And we continuously try to identify additional action items that we can lead and that some of our other partners can lead. We're very pleased to be working again in partnership with EPA and in partnership with state water associations to host the State Regulator Summit each year at our conference, our Water Reuse Symposium. As has already been mentioned, and as many of you know, most of the regulatory work that's being done in the area of water recycling is being done by states. And so a number of our state members approached us very early on and asked if we could provide a forum, a venue for convening states on a regular basis so that They can share information, lessons learned, about how to develop regulations around reuse in a way that is successful for their ratepayers. So we've been very excited that we've been able to host this summit on a regular basis this past year. I think we had almost 25 states, almost half the states participate in the summit, and it's proven quite productive and quite effective at helping states, providing them with the information and some technical knowledge about how to develop regulations effectively around reuse. And then finally, I wanted to mention again, Water Week. That's coming up the same week the onsite conference is occurring in Washington. On the 9th is our policy fly-in. And again, for those of you who might be coming to Washington for the conference and want to get up to Capitol Hill with us, please reach out. We'll give you information about how to do that. We are starting to focus more on industrial water recycling, and this is because, well, for a few reasons. One, there's a need, as has been mentioned by Paula and others, and Sharon. A lot of industry now is quite interested in installing on-site systems for their processes, for their facilities, either as a way to meet their own specific water management needs, or as a way to ensure that their companies remain resilient and are meeting their ESG goals. And we are also seeing that utilities themselves are quite interested in working with industry. Industrial water consumption is one of the largest, they're one of the largest users of water. They're facing a lot of reliability challenges in many regions of the country. And our utility members who are servicing those companies realize that industry needs to be part of the solution, and industry plays a significant role in ensuring that water recycling and water reuse can be effective tools that they can use. So we've started to advocate for greater investment and partnership with industry and applying and identifying policies that can support their efforts in adopting water recycling practices. As you know, on-site systems for industry and these systems are not cheap. And so one of the things that we're looking at is a way to identify incentives at the state and national level that can help industry adopt water recycling practices. And one of them is an industrial tax credit. Of course, there are tax credits for wind energy and solar energy. These tax credits have been quite effective at increasing overall investment in renewable energy sources. And so we are trying to identify a way that a federal tax credit could be available for companies who want to make investments in water recycling. These would be investments either in on-site systems or investments in receiving recycled effluent from a nearby utility for use in their processes. Does someone have a question? Okay. As part of this effort, as Sharon mentioned, we are working with EPA and the Environmental Finance Advisory Board on a report to Congress that EFAB is doing about the public benefits of an ITC. We're also supporting an award program for companies who have made significant investments in water reuse. And we are hosting a conference later this November on industrial and commercial water reuse. It'll be in Palm Springs, California. And for those of you who are interested in attending that conference, please reach out to me, and I can give you more information. Stepping back a bit, there has been much more activity on many different forms of water reuse, many different applications of water reuse. And of course, recently there's been a lot of interest in potable reuse, particularly in the West and in the South, where drought is really becoming quite severe, and states are looking at ways of using recycled resources for potable supply. You may have heard that many states are actually moving toward direct potable reuse. And this is primarily because we've proven that recycled water supplies can be safe for drinking water consumption. And oftentimes now folks are realizing that indirect potable reuse systems are unnecessarily expensive because there is barrier that either a reservoir or a groundwater aquifer that may not be needed to supply very safe drinking water supplies directly from a water reuse system. So several states are looking at adopting regulations to allow direct potable reuse. This is occurring in several states out west. Colorado, California just adopted their regulations. Arizona will be adopting a DPR regulation later this year, and Florida is developing DPR regulations. So this is an exciting development that states are moving into. At the Water Reuse Foundation, we remain agnostic on the types of applications that our members choose to use for water reuse, but I did want to mention that what's happening on DPR, because I know a lot of folks are interested in that movement, and that trend. One project in particular, of course, is El Paso. We expect El Paso to move to DPR next year. They have a 10 MGD facility that they're building. We expect it to be operational in 2026. You asked about public perception, Rich. We haven't really done much polling nationally on potable reuse, but obviously those communities that are moving toward potable reuse have done quite a bit of polling. And in regions of the country where recycled water supplies are being used or will be used for potable supply, the public acceptance has been fairly robust. Obviously, once communities move toward potable supply, it's potable reuse supply. It's because there are severe droughts, severe supply challenges, and the public is aware that alternative and diversified source of water needs to be developed. We haven't done any polling, or I haven't seen any polling on onsite systems specifically. Maybe Paula has, but I did want to mention that in El Paso, in particular, they've done a lot of outreach around their movement toward DPR, and one poll in 2013 found 84% of support among the public for the DPR project, and they revisited that survey in 2016 and found that the public sentiment actually increased. So again, I think in general, there's much public acceptance for recycled water to be used in non-portable sources around the country where water is a challenge. And we're seeing quite a bit of support among communities that are facing severe shortages for moving toward potable reuse for potable supplies. We also do a lot of educational and outreach work on behalf of our members. We try to develop tools and resources that our members can use in their efforts in educating their ratepayers about water recycling. And if you go to our website, you can see several resources, short 2-pagers, what we call profiles in reuse, that provide, I think, very nice overviews of how reuse is being used by companies and communities to meet their water challenges. We host monthly webcasts. We produce other educational videos. And we also host an annual water reuse symposium. Just had ours in Denver 2 weeks ago. And in 2025, our reuse symposium is heading to Tampa, Florida, which should be fun. And then finally, I did want to mention also with Paula and Sharon, we collaborate and support the National Blue Ribbon Commission for onsite non-potable water systems. This is an effort that we began supporting more directly several years ago, and it's been a great collaboration with Paula and her network of regulators, local regulators involved in on-site systems. Our members join because we cover both on-site and centralized reuse approaches. Both are extremely effective at meeting local water supply needs and water challenges. And we're proud to be an association that reflects the importance of both approaches to providing recycled water supplies. And with that, I think I'm at the end. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I am not seeing any hands raised, Pat. You did such a good job. You have no questions. No. So thank you. And, ICC really appreciates the partnership with the Water Reuse Association and everything your members bring to the table.
Rich. Thank you.
Yeah, and that goes for the National Blue Ribbon Commission as well as the EPA and the partnership. Everything that we've been talking about so far is what prompted our next presenter and ICC to really take a more holistic look at what we are doing in water reuse in the built environment in those codes, right? So I hope everybody can see my screen now. Hopefully. If
Yes.
not, somebody speak up. Thank you, Adam. So Adam Stern and I will be kind of tag teaming this next section of this presentation. And what we're going to focus on is really the formation of the Water Reuse Working Group. Early last year, we had a lot of conversations with the water reuse stakeholders. Then we took a real holistic look at what we're doing in our plumbing code, as well as in our IRC for plumbing provisions for on-site water reuse. Hopefully everybody's pretty aware of what we currently have, but in a nutshell, we really limit the source of the on-site water to very particular fixtures. And then we only really talk about reclaimed water or non-potable on-site water reuse. And through our relationship with these partner organizations that you've heard from today, we really recognize that there was a big gap within the plumbing code that needed to be filled. So the Water Reuse Working Group was formed, like I said, as part of your PMG Code Action Committee. They reviewed hundreds of documents, thousands of data points, I would say, Adam, right? And we took note from existing regulations that we've heard about already, or guideline documents, as well as industry concerns from people like Adam Stern, who are manufacturing and upkeeping these facilities, to really take a more broader, holistic approach to water reuse in the family of I-codes. You know, we had to start off with things like, okay, coming up with a code proposal for the 2027 codes. That was the ultimate goal, right? And as I said, all of the necessary updates in the code were addressed, hopefully, that are going to make on-site potable without an environmental buffer, right? Possible on-site. Not sending that water all the way back to a jurisdiction like Paula's to treat and then resend in the community. What can we do with every ounce of water that flows through that water meter on site and reuse it? Really concentrating on that. How do we honor this limited resource that we have? We've done a lot of good over the last years in the plumbing code, right? With flow of fixture rates and things like that. And the average water use per capita has gone down, but we've grown as a nation exponentially over the last 50 years. Therefore, we need better regulations for on-site water reuse. We didn't want to limit the source of water on site, but what we really wanted to do was focus on the end use and developing tiers for that use. And I'm just going to get into some of the more detailed things with that, maybe the scientific side and why we chose to do some of the things we did. But included in the handout you'll be sending out are these two code proposals, P157-24 Part 1 and 2. They are available through your CDP access right now on ICC. That's our code development online platform. If you're not familiar with it, just do a web search for it. It is going to be the exact same username and login for like your My ICC account, or if you have a Digital Code Premium account. We try to use the same login and password throughout the family of solutions. This is kind of what it'll look like in a nutshell. That's a website if you need it. Like I said, one of the easiest ways to get to it is just do a search for CDP access and it'll take you right to it. If anybody hasn't seen our code proposals, it always starts out with the IPC section, things that are going to be addressed and done. And when you look at these two proposals, part 1 is for the IPC, part 2 is going to be for the IRC. And what you'll notice in both of them, it's pretty much a total complete rewrite and looking through on-site water reuse through a different lens. As I mentioned, toilet to tap, maybe, not limiting the source, but honoring the source, right? We have to pay attention to where that source is coming from so that people like Adam can design a proper treatment system. Without knowing what the source of the water is or the quality of water, it's kind of hard to properly implement that water treatment system. So you'll see a lot of that in here. The IRC, what we did was the proposal is to delete everything in chapter 29 for water and create a brand new water reuse chapter. So for those of you that use the IRC, you know, the electrical that immediately follows will be moved up 1 chapter number. And then the whole water reuse for on-site water reuse, so to include black water, will be housed in a brand new chapter if approved at the code hearings. So these are the two. As you can see, the IRC section making changes to a bunch of sections within the IRC to make that brand new holistic water reuse chapter. Why does this matter? You know, I'm not going to read from the slide. I think we've heard from our previous presenters why it matters, right? And the importance of having the codes to support on-site DPR. Now, it became real apparent really fast to the water reuse working group that there may be a gap in some of the training required for these on-site systems. So with that, in January, ICC, we filed an ANSI PINs to develop a whole new set of standards for DPR. And they're professional qualification standards. So although we're still in negotiation with ANSI and a couple of organizations that filed opposition to that PINs, we do feel that that is going to be a good thing, because most jurisdictions are responsible for the quality of water. So if they're sending reclaimed water to a site, we know what to do with that in the plumbing code. If they're sending potable water to the site, we know what we can do with that in the plumbing code. However, with the giant gap for DPR, we needed some sort of professional qualification standard that would allow jurisdictions to know that the designers, the installers, our plan reviewers, inspectors, as well as auditors, and then on-site maintenance personnel were properly trained in DPR to implement all of these brand new code provisions. As we've heard from our previous speakers, there's been a lot of effort over the last, couple of decades for on-site direct potable water reuse. Most jurisdictions are approving those through an alternative means or methods, right? Because we have nothing in the code to go off of. Or you have state agencies that are only going to allow it for a municipal-owned building because they know they have licensed wastewater operators on staff that can maintain that system. So in order to make this possible, ICC has really worked with all of these partner organizations to have a roadmap to develop resources that are needed to support DPR. So with that, Adam, I believe we're on to you. Maybe we
Okay.
started with some definitions changes.
Yeah,
You
thanks,
want to
Rich.
highlight some of those?
And thanks to everybody for hanging in there. I will try to pick up the pace here to finish on time. Just a couple things to remember. The purpose, again, to support and expand opportunities for water reuse. And the other element is we're placing less emphasis on the source of the water. In other words, if the quality of the raw or influent water, that's got to matter much less than the quality of that to be reused, right? So I don't care too much if the raw water comes in clean or dirty, but it absolutely must come out clean before it's reused and to that appropriate standard. So we had a couple definitions here. You should all be familiar with these. This might be a slide we can skip over. Here let me go down a bit. So the first point here is that this governs the material, design, construction, installation, but most importantly, treatment levels of reuse water. Note also that compliance with the local authorities is also required, at the end of this section, and that's typical. Local jurisdictions are free to impose more stringent requirements. Next slide. The other critical piece of this proposal is the quality of the water that we need to produce in order to reuse it. I'll go into this in a little more detail. Next slide. The first thing we did was to create different tiers of quality for reuse. We defined 4 different tiers. We looked at other jurisdictions, what they did with ratings and tiers and categories, and decided that 4 was the right balance. 4 provides enough flexibility, but certainly avoids the complexity and regulatory challenges associated with managing like 7 or 8 or 9 different tiers. The highest water quality tier, right, the best water quality is tier 4. So this would apply to the most sensitive type of reuse. And yes, this is direct potable reuse. So obviously, if this is going to be potable water, clearly it's got to comply with the Safe Drinking Water Act. But is that enough? Maybe, but maybe not, especially as relates to microorganisms. So in addition to meeting the standards of the Safe Drinking Water Act, we've layered on log reductions. Log reductions, I assume everyone is familiar with, but if we talk about 3 log reduction, that means 3 nines, 99.9% reduction. If we talk about 8 log reduction, that's 99.6 more nines. So we came up with a also several different tiers, and Rich, I'm catching up to here. So again, we're trying to set minimum standards, but also be flexible. And here I'd like to start at the bottom. Why do we not have a specific standard for, say, processed water or rainwater? Well, we essentially know the expected components of domestic wastewater, but processed water and rooftop runoff, at least after the first flush, can vary very much. Depends, your stormwater is going to depend on the nature of your catchment basin, and your rooftop runoff, for example, that quality depends in part of how much the birds, vultures or geese, enjoy the view from your roof. So these are all very case-by-case bases. However, when we look at black water, we understand that this clearly needs the most treatment if we're talking about DPR. But what if we've got a stream of black water that is mixed with groundwater? What if there's blending? Maybe it's surface water. Maybe we've got our existing river source and we want to add 5% black water. Do we get any credit for that? A little bit. We established the LRV credit as the negative log of black water contribution, which was one of the definitions. So it's relatively simple. If we've got 10 gallons per day of black water mixing with 90 gallons per day of groundwater, the black water contribution there is 10%. Negative log of that is 1. Therefore, you've got 1 log reduction value credit. So instead of an 18, 15, 15, you're looking at 17, 14, 14. Now you math folks out there can ask, well, what happens if we have 0.00001% of black water at some point? We don't need to treat it all. Well, no, because we maximized that credit at 2 logs. So it's pretty modest. Next slide. This is several pages. And the idea here was, if you look at the large middle column, is to identify probably about 100 different types of applications for reuse. On the left, we then categorized them. We've got everything from irrigation to washdown water to indirect potable and so on. Based on those uses, we assigned an exposure level. You'll see the ICs, DCs, ACs, and what do they mean? Well, DC is direct public contact where consumption is intended. So this is DPR. And that DC designation has a 1-to-1 correspondence with quality tier 4. Quality tier 3 is where we can have aerosolization or accidental limited public consumption might be possible. So this is where you have spray irrigation or maybe irrigation of food crops, right, where there's the potential for aerosolization. So in theory, there could be some consumption, but it's certainly not intended. Quality tier 2 is IC. This is where indirect public consumption is intended or possible. Well, if it's intended, well, how does that get a lower tier? Well, the key word there is indirect. So this is indirect public consumption. This is where we've got that environmental buffer between the water to be used, the wastewater, and the water treatment for potable consumption. So this may be if we're recharging an aquifer or if we're discharging to a river upstream of a treatment system intake. And then finally, we've got quality tier 1, where there's limited contact and certainly no consumption intended. So this could be drip irrigation. This could be restricted access areas and so forth. I encourage you to check out the table and add anything if you can, but it's a pretty comprehensive list. And again, this is just an excerpt of it. So I blasted through that pretty quickly, Rich. I skipped some things, but it looks like we did leave about 3 or 4 minutes here for questions.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Adam. I encourage everybody to take a really close look at those code proposals because whether you're aware of it or not, DPR is coming to your communities. We're seeing more state legislation directing our water quality managers at state levels to implement something that works. In our home rule states, we see that coming down to, of course, those local jurisdictions based on things. So I just want to remind everybody, hey, we are all here and we are all resources to be used. If you have a DPR project coming into your community, chances are that Pat, Sharon, Paul, or Adam probably know some of the people involved with that project. Feel free to reach out to us if you are trying to approve something under existing plumbing codes, whether you're in the IPC for Chapter 1 alternative materials or in the other plumbing code in Chapter 3 for their alternative materials and methods. We'd be happy to help guide you through that process right now. Obviously, as your ICC PMG person assigned for water reuse, I am always a resource, but your other 4 US directors are well up to speed on this as well. You know, we only have a couple of minutes. I'm not seeing any hands raised. Liz, are you on? Do you have any closing remarks or anything for everybody?
No, thank you everyone for joining us today. Like I mentioned, CEUs will be awarded shortly, and you will receive an email from the Learning Center indicating that your course has been marked as complete. Those CEUs will automatically transfer to your MyICC, so you're able to use those directly when submitting for a renewal. Let me put my email in the chat again, just in case somebody has any questions. You can reach out to me. Otherwise, we're good to go.
Awesome. I cannot thank our panelists enough for coming today. Obviously, this is something I could not have done on my own, nor should you have to tackle these things in your own community on your own. So, do we have any closing statements from the panelists?
Just enjoyed it, Rich. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to some of your members.
And
Thanks,
I would
Rich.
just like to add, oops, sorry, Adam.
If anyone knows of projects out there, opportunities in need of engineering, design, construction, and operations, please let me know. We're at nsuwater.com.
I would just like to add, thank you, Rich, and ICC for the partnership. It's really been a great partnership and a collaborative effort, and to align all of the work that we're doing in order to protect public health. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich, for having us. This is a great panel. I learned a lot. I really appreciate your partnership and that you all are taking these meaningful steps to incorporate the latest science into your codes. It's really fantastic to protect public health. So thank you.
Great. Now we just need all of the members in this to vote yes for these code proposals so we can get them in the 27 codes. Because all of the work these people did, I'm going to be honest with you guys from an old plumber standpoint. I'm so thankful for the knowledge and skill and all the other attributes that our water reuse working group brought to the table because, you know, Sharon knows if you talk to Jay, he will get very technical with all of the data like Adam can. So having these people process all of that and guide ICC through the process is so invaluable to our members and the communities they serve. So thank you for all you do for us.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.